If you are an entrepreneur thinking about starting your own online store or e-commerce business, one of the most crucial decisions you have to make is choosing the right e-commerce platform. And it's a decision that can significantly impact the success of your business. But with so many options out there, it can be incredibly overwhelming to choose the right one. But don't worry, I've got your back. Today, I'm going to share with you the 5 essential rules you need to consider when choosing the right e-commerce platform that matches your personality and budget. These rules are tried and tested and have helped me and many of my students to build successful online stores. So grab a notepad and let's dive right in. What's up everyone? My name is Steve Chu and I run 2 7-figure businesses over at bumblebeelinens.com, which is an e-commerce store selling handkerchiefs, and my blog over at My Wife Quit Her Job, where I teach e-commerce. I'm also the author of the Wall Street Journal best-selling book, The Family First Entrepreneur. Now, the number one question I get asked nearly every single day is which shopping cart to go with. And I just want to start this video by sharing my own personal story on why this decision matters and why it's important that you listen to these 5 rules that I'm about to teach you. I started my online store back in 2007 before Shopify existed, before BigCommerce, before Ship4Shop, before WooCommerce, and even before Amazon. As a result, I went with one of the only solutions that was available back then called Oscommerce. Now, there were other options, but I chose Oscommerce because it was the best open source shopping cart back in the day, and best of all, it was 100% free to use. Oscommerce ran great for me for a very long time, costing me only $7 a month and made me millions of dollars until one day, the main developers behind the project decided to stop developing for it. All of a sudden, I was left with a platform that was dead and would get no more improvements ever again. But by then, I had invested so much time and wrote so much custom code for my online store that I had to choose whether to migrate my store to a cart like Shopify or BigCommerce or stick with my obsolete cart and maintain it myself. Now, ultimately, I made the tough decision to maintain my online store myself because the pain of migrating was just too great and it would be impossible to move over all the functionality that I had custom coded over the years. Well, guess what I had to do last week? I literally spent 16 hours upgrading my online store to the latest and greatest software versions by myself. Now, the one saving grace was that I only have to do this once every 5 years, and I've saved a ton of money over the years because my cart is 100% free. But my point is that most of you watching this video probably don't have the technical chops to maintain the code for your website in case a company decides to go belly up. So for all of you watching, choosing the right e-commerce platform is extremely important because it's a major pain in the butt to switch. And with that, let's start with rule number 1. You should only use a shopping cart that is maintained by a well-known and well-supported company with a huge war chest of cash. In other words, if you are thinking about using some unknown podunk e-commerce platform from some startup company, just don't do it. Every now and then, a subscriber will email me whether they should consider using some random free shopping cart that I've never heard of. And when I visit the website or company, it's basically run by a 2-person team running it as a side business. Do not do this. If you go with a well-known company, preferably a public company, then you can rest assured that your platform is going to be pretty safe. Even if the public company were to go bankrupt, someone would probably buy them and continue to support your store, giving you time to migrate to a different platform. Now, the only exception to this rule is if you go with a popular open source e-commerce platform with tons of developer support. For example, Linux is open source and it's maintained by thousands of developers all over the world. Anyway, if you obey this rule, it already narrows down your pool of choices to Shopify, BigCommerce, Ship4Shop, Square, Wix, Ecwid, Squarespace, WooCommerce, and Magento. Now, it's still a large list, but at least you know the company will be around next year. By the way, if you're enjoying this video so far, then sign up for my free 6-day e-commerce mini course below. Rule number 2 is that the shopping cart must have excellent third-party developer support. Now, I'm going to make the assumption here that most of you watching this video are not tech savvy and do not have the knowledge or the drive to create your own plugins or design your own website. Now, if you want to have an e-commerce platform that stands the test of time and evolves as the e-commerce landscape changes, that means that you'll likely have to add new features to your online store at some point in your business's lifetime. For example, in the not too distant future, it will probably be the norm to have an artificial intelligence assistant help customers shop online. And right now, your online store platform probably doesn't have this functionality, so you'll likely need to buy a plugin to implement it. But here's the thing, developers only develop for the most popular platforms. Now, if you look at the overall market share of shopping carts in the United States, you'll see that Shopify is number 1, followed by WooCommerce, followed by Wix, Squarespace, and Ecwid. But we all know that many of these shops don't make any money at all, so let's focus on the top online stores. If we look at the top 1 million websites in the world by traffic, it paints a completely different picture. Now, the top websites in the world are on WooCommerce and Shopify, with Magento and BigCommerce on the radar screen as well. And because Shopify and WooCommerce are by far the most popular shopping carts in the world, they command the most developer support. And as a result, any new e-commerce functionality will be created for these platforms first. So once again, if you want to future-proof your business, you'll want to go with a well-supported shopping cart. And this pretty much eliminates a lot of the bigger players who don't have a large market share in the e-com space. Now, people always ask me about Wix, Square, Squarespace, GoDaddy, Big Cartel. And my answer is that no developers are making any new software for these platforms. So even if they are backed by large companies, there really is no support except for the company itself. The most well-supported carts are Shopify, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, and Magento. Rule number 3 is that the e-commerce platform should be easy to maintain. Now, the reason I have this rule in place is because most of you watching this video probably just want your online store software to just work and not have to worry about your website crashing or having to upgrade anything by yourself. Now, if you want to follow this rule, then you should probably rule out WooCommerce. Even though WooCommerce is 100% free, you still have to have a server to run your website. And WooCommerce is based on open source software, which means that you own the source code for your website and you have full control over it. However, you still have to maintain the server that it runs on. And this basically means that you have to upgrade all of your own plugins and software, and you have to lock down your server in case anyone ever tries to hack you. Now, fortunately, WooCommerce and WordPress have a fairly robust push-button upgrade mechanism, but bad things do happen from time to time. For example, a couple weeks ago, I upgraded my WordPress blog for Bumblebee Linens to the latest and greatest version, and a bunch of my plugins broke, and I had to manually debug what was wrong. Now, the primary benefit of going with a popular cart like WooCommerce is that you can easily find help online on the forums, Reddit, Stack Overflow, etc. But ultimately, it's up to you to find your own solution and fix your own problems. The other benefit of owning the source code is that you can easily create custom functionality for your website that goes beyond what any plugin can do. For example, I sell personalized products in my store. If I wanted to create a feature that allows customers to see a mock-up of the finished product after personalization, there's no plugin that does that. I'd have to write it myself, and WooCommerce allows you that flexibility. Anyway, if you have no desire to maintain your own software or your own server, that pretty much limits your choices at this point to BigCommerce or Shopify. Rule number 4 is that your e-commerce platform has to be reasonably priced and not cost you a large percentage of your revenue. Now, so far, I haven't really said anything bad about Shopify, but one of the biggest negatives of Shopify is the price. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, $30 a month doesn't sound that bad, but the price is deceptive. Shopify was designed to have minimal functionality out of the box, and they force you to pay for plugins to add features to your shopping cart. The average Shopify store uses 7 plugins that charge reoccurring fees. The typical Shopify user in my Create a Profitable Online Store course spends about $200 a month on Shopify. Meanwhile, other solutions like BigCommerce, Shift4Shop, and WooCommerce are just way cheaper. BigCommerce has most of the functionality that you need out of the box, so you don't get nickel and dimed on apps. Shift4Shop is on this list because the shopping cart is as powerful as BigCommerce and Shopify, and it's 100% free when you process at least $500 in orders every single month. And WooCommerce is 100% free to use, and WordPress has a library of thousands of free plugins to use for it. So if price is one of your primary concerns, then go with WooCommerce, Shift4Shop, or BigCommerce because they will be cheaper than Shopify. And then finally, we have rule number 5, which is to choose an e-commerce platform with a good blogging platform that is optimized for search. Now, this last rule is only important if ranking in search is an important criteria, and unfortunately, Shopify does not offer a very good blogging platform. Not only is Shopify's blogging platform limited, but they have a suboptimal URL structure that is less conducive to ranking in search. Now, of the choices that I presented so far, WooCommerce easily has the best blogging platform because it's based on WordPress. And BigCommerce offers a cool plugin that integrates with WordPress so you can seamlessly run your blog on WordPress and your store in BigCommerce under the exact same subdomain. So basically, if blogging is important to you, then WooCommerce or BigCommerce are better solutions than Shopify. Now at this point, I probably fried your brain with a number of options, so let's put everything together in a concise manner. If you have the budget and you don't really care about costs, then Shopify is probably your best option. Even though Shopify will nickel and dime you with apps and payment processing, it's the best choice not necessarily because the platform itself is better, but because it has the best third-party developer ecosystem. Go with BigCommerce if you want an overall solid shopping cart and great out-of-the-box functionality without getting nickel and dime with apps. If you are on a strict budget, then go with WooCommerce or Shift4Shop. WooCommerce offers you the most flexibility out of all the shopping carts listed because you have control over the source code, but you have to be tech savvy to maintain it. And finally, Shift4Shop is a great all-around shopping cart that is free when you make $500 a month, which is a really low bar. Now that you know my rules for picking the right shopping cart, make sure you watch this video here to learn how to make $100,000 with your e-commerce store.